Welcome to episode 1 of Sword Talk, a series where I talk about, well, swords. To kick this series off on a high note, I'll be tackling the controversial topic of longsword versus katana. Now, some people believe that a longsword is a heavy, blunt club of a sword, and that the katana is an ultra-sharp, paper-thin sword. I'm here to tell you that neither are true. First of all, let's get into the longsword. Here I have a synthetic sword from Red Dragon Armory, made to simulate the length and weight of a real longsword. The longsword is an agile, double-edged sword that originates in Europe, used by knights and peasants alike. It weighs about 2 to 3 kilos, aka 4 to 6 pounds, and the center of weight is pretty close to the handle, like around here. And that makes it more controllable and maneuverable, all that. The longsword was designed to be more of a cut and thrust weapon, and it's used more in actual combat than just dueling or whatever. Now, the Japanese katana. Here I have an unsharpened replica from Mini Katana, and even though it's a replica, it's designed to be accurate to the real thing, except, it's not sharp. Just like the longsword, the katana usually weighs around 2 to 3 kilos, but is more forward heavy, center of weight higher up on the blade, somewhere around here I believe. Now obviously, the katana has a one-sided blade and is designed to be more of a slashing weapon than a cut and thrust. And the blade length of the katana, just take a look at this. It's considerably shorter than the longsword. Anyways, due to the katana being more forward heavy, it's less maneuverable, but it's more heavy in a cut. Another thing with the katana is it was not really designed to be used in combat, and it wasn't really designed to be used in combat, usually only as either a last stand or just treated as a piece of art, although it is pretty capable as a sword. So which exactly is better? Truth is, you can't really sum it up in just which is just overall better, because in a way, they're both better at different things. So let's analyze the differences. Number 1, the length of the blade. As I said earlier, the longsword blade is, I don't need to explain. So, is this important? Very. The length of your blade is, it's just about your range. If somebody is within your range, you can attack them. And, if you're in your enemy's range and your enemy's not in your range, you're a little screwed. Which is exactly why the longsword would probably annihilate the katana in an actual fight. And, Number 2, the sharpness. Some people think that the sharpness relies on the sword itself. The katana is super sharp, can cut through steel or concrete or whatever the hell people think. That the katana is it's blunt, it's a club, doom, 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 haha, caveman brain. No. Now, the sharpness does not rely on the sword. I'm just going to say it. It just relies on the wielder, how well they maintain their sword, how often they sharpen it, and how many times they use it. Because if somebody's in a war or whatever, and they're constantly fighting people who are clad in armor, and they don't get a chance to sharpen it, then obviously it's going to become dull. Meanwhile, if you just have a sword as just to look at it, and it's hey, I want to try something out, so let me sharpen it, and you barely use it, then it's going to be sharper. Who would have guessed? Number 3, the weight. Now, these two swords, as I said, they weigh pretty much the same. The only difference is really the center of weight. The longsword is closer to the handle, while this is more on the blade. And this surprisingly does actually mean a lot. For example, the longsword, if you want to just strike something, you can do a quick snap strike or whatever. Meanwhile, a longsword, the weight here, it makes it better for like more cutting motions because the extra weight adds more force to your cut, which, well, it's going to do more damage. But does that make it necessarily better? In my opinion, no. I believe that being able to maneuver it is more important than being able to get a good cut in. Because even if you get a lousy cut in, well, it's still gonna do something. What can I say? Number 4, the blade type. As you all can see, you're not, whatever. The longsword has a double-edged blade, meanwhile the katana has a single-edged blade, and the katana is curved while the longsword is straight. Now, once again, these factors do play in more than you think. So, the single-edged blade, the katana is basically entirely designed after just a cut. That's it. Meanwhile, the longsword is designed to do more, how do I say this? It's designed to do more things, pretty much. To be used more. And the curved edge of the katana means if you hit something with it and you slice all the way, well, it's going to be a pretty damn deep cut. Meanwhile, with the longsword, if it's more of like, oh, you're going to slice someone? Okay, it's going to be a good cut. It's not as much as a katana. So, in the end, which one is better? Personally, if I were to get into a fight, I would have to pick the longsword. Sorry to all my anime fans out there, but in terms of combat, it's just superior. You just do more with it, you have more range, it's easier to maneuver, all that. So, thank you for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.